when you are creating a bigger vision, it automatically increases the complexity of the goals that you have, which means that you need to think it through. That means you need to spend a little bit of time preparing. Essentially, goals are there to help you test that, because you're going to have a hypothesis that, hey, I'm going to go in this direction, so this is what I'm going to do, so it creates this thing for me. But the problem is that most people go on the wrong road, and this is where strategy comes in. How to become strategic, and what does that mean in this process? So I want you to think this through, because this is why we start with vision, the bigger picture, and then we go into what does it mean for me to go long term? What does it mean for you to go short term? This is why one of two things happen. People either hit their goals. If they're ambitious enough, they will hit their goals one way or another. And the goal might be, hey, I want to make $1 million, or I want to make $20 million. Now, the end point might be, the B point might be, is I want to make $20 million or $50 million. Great. That's a great goal. Now, what they didn't do is they didn't think about why they want to make $50 million. Now, at the back of our mind, we know that, well, I want to have more time. I want to have more freedom. I want to have this, that, and the other. But here's the thing. They didn't realize that for them to make that money, there are different vehicles to do that. But are all the vehicles worth it? Or in this context, are all the roads worth it towards that? And what is it that you want specifically? And when you get specific about what matters to you, then you're going to realize, okay, maybe it's not the 50 million that I want. Maybe what I want is primarily, I want time freedom with my family. I want the option to be able to do different things. And essentially, the purpose of money is to give you options. So you need to be clear as to what are the options that you want. You might not care about a jet, but somebody else might care about a jet, because a private jet might give you the option to do a lot of amazing things, but it might not be the thing that you care about. It might be a good thing to have, but that's not the thing that's important to you. Maybe what's important to you is going to Hawaii a couple of times a year, or 3-4 times, or maybe it's important for you to live part of the year in Hawaii and part of the year somewhere else. So that's why it takes actually quite a bit of work to think through these things. So what does it mean? So when you're looking at your life long term, when you're putting yourself in that experience, you've thought about the vision. Now, that long-term picture is really important. Now you're working backwards from there. For me to actually practically do this, what are the pieces that need to come into effect? What do I need to do? And there's this idea, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, and this is part of the vision building process as well, is that be, do, have. Have you guys heard of that? Be, do, have. So a lot of people, when they want to try to achieve something, they try to do a lot of things, or they just think about what they want to have. But the progression of that might be is you need to become the kind of person who can do the things to have what you want. And if it's a business, for example, you need to become the person who has the character and the skill sets to run a business like that. So you can have a life that you're picturing. If you want $50 million, for example, there are other things in that picture other than the $50 million. You need to consider, how do you want to feel in that life? How do you want to grow? What kind of growth level do you want to be at? How do you want other people to see you around you? How do you want to feel internally? Do you want to feel at peace? Do you want to feel connected? Do you want to feel like a leader in that space? And those are important growth patterns for you. Do you want to be at peace with yourself? And this is why this is part of the vision building process, because it becomes simpler for you to answer those. And then when you're looking at that future, the first part is that growth, but then the second part might be is, what kind of people do you want to interact with in that life? So if you are at that $50 million mark, do you really want to do, what kind of life do you want to have? Who are the kind of people that you want to interact with? Are these more business people? Or is this a community that you've built? Is this a nonprofit you've built? What are the values that they have? How do you want to be with your family? How do you want to be with the people around you? Because a lot of people have, and one of the things that hold people back in this process is that when they set a big goal, they're like, well, my fear is that I might get disconnected from the people around me. Well, that just shows me that that's an important value for you. So take that into account while you're building your stuff.